Hi, I have Dr. Page, correct?
This is me.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. So, yeah, everything's been boring. You know, the older I get, the more boring I like things to be. So,
Yeah, it's you look for the boring now. Look,
absolutely.
uh,
Yeah, that's
most
all
of the time
right.
you can't find the boring times where there's nothing to do.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, we've got 5 kids, and life's crazy. It's
That's
good.
I got three, and I tell people, I said, you know why I had three kids? I said because I didn't want four.
Sure. What ages are they,
They're
Ginger?
21, 23, and 25.
Oh, wow. So they're out of the
Oh
house.
yeah, two in college still, but they have their own places. They
Well,
work and commute to college. So, and then my son is out of school and works for Chevrolet up here in Michigan, which most people who graduate or go to school and or just work for anybody, you're probably working for some subsidiary of a auto company up here. So
right, right. So you must be pretty close to Detroit or in Detroit.
I'm about 30 minutes from Detroit. I'm about 30 minutes from the bridge right there for Windsor. So I'm right here by Canada. I'm
Wow.
about 45 minutes north of Toledo and about 30 minutes west of the bridge to Canada. So
Wow.
two I'm in three different worlds if I want to be. And I'm from Texas originally. And I saw you're from Nacogdoches.
How'd you know? Yeah, you're the only person I know that we call. Yeah, that's what we call it, Naca Nowhere. How do you know about Nacogdoches?
Because of your beautiful college. One of my friends went to college there, and I visited her, and I just wanted to get lost.
Yeah, it's especially beautiful in the springtime.
I love Nacogdoches. Thankfully one of my friends, or that she went there for college her first year right out the gate, and she graduated there too. So I didn't move off to college, so I went and visited my friends and spent the nights in their dorms, and got to experience college life in a cool way. And I just remember just how gorgeous it was. Is in the middle of nowhere, but it was incredible. And I just remember them, she was like, "Yep, I'm gonna be living in Naca nowhere." uh,
Wow, so that really encouraged me. It's funny wherever you live. Sometimes you feel like it's better somewhere else. So that's good to hear that.
it's I mean, comparatively, I mean, unless the blue bonnets are out on the highways, that might be the only time you're rivaled as far as your floral, like, or your landscaping kind of thing. It's beautiful out there.
Yep.
I'm originally from a small town northeast of Dallas. I don't know if you've ever heard of Farmersville.
Yes, I have.
You have? Oh, well, see, yeah, I figure no one's ever heard of that. But
Oh yeah.
I, w-
Oh
I,
yeah.
I was there. We moved there when I was three, and I went from kindergarten through my senior year in the same school system. I went there and graduated there. Grew up at a farming family, and we whatever we ate, we shot it or we grew it. It was pretty much. So it's really foreign to people in Michigan. I grew some okra one year in my garden in my yard, and my next door neighbor saw me outside, and he's like, "Ginger," he's like, "hand me one of your okras." And I said, "Okay, just one. Do you want me to make you a bag full, And he's like, "No, just give me one." And I said, "Okay." And I picked one off and gave it to him. I said, "Why do you want it?" And he said, "I got some friends coming over tonight, and they have no idea what an okra is either." I was like, wow, I really am in no man's land. But my kids
Wow.
got the benefit of kind of both. They got city life, but they also got my my home cooking and all of my southern sayings and all that. So when they go back home, they think they're southerners again. But it's like, sorry, you get Michigan plates on you. You're not southern, but they like to pretend they're real Texans, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's
I'm
pretty
very
cool.
proud to be a Texan. I'm proud to be where I'm at, and we have a family farm down there. So I go down 2 or 3 times a year and spend 2 or 3 weeks. and I'll always go down and work and help work with breaking some of the babies, getting them used to, the bridles and getting used to having their feet messed with and things like that. So we have about 80 horses, and we breed them.
Wow.
We breed. That's a rough number. We have about 25 babies a year. So if all the babies are out in the field, we run about 80 head of horse, and we have about 30 to 40 head of cow, depending on how how my cousin's selling them at what poundage. But we got a llamas, a couple donkeys, lots of chickens, and lots of cats. Thousands of cats. I have no idea how many cats, and two dogs. Only two dogs though.
That sounds like a full-time operation.
It really is. That's why I go down and help my cousins whenever I can. And plus, I'm just in love with horses. That's my favorite thing in the world to do. And when I saw your information about your book, I told the girl who sent it to me. I said, Lori, I said, you have no idea. Like, this is my book because I have MS and I have fibromyalgia and I have epilepsy. So, like, this is I think for my people. I have several friends that we have, like just banded together because of different illnesses, and people can tell me all the time just to keep praying and have faith, but every day, 24 hours a day, I'm in pain, something doesn't work. I never have a break, and that wears on you. And no matter, I mean, I'm sure if you're Paul, maybe it's different, but for me, like it's very difficult. And my handful of friends that are in similar situations, that's my lifeline because they know what I'm talking about. And so I'm just dying to read the book. So it's available now, and it is called A Spoonful of Courage for the Sick and Suffering, Transforming Your Greatest Challenges into Your Biggest Blessings. So I need you to tell me how you got to this book, and tell me what this is about, because I cannot wait to read it.
Well, there's stories of real people, stories of real people who have, kind of went through difficult times and came out on the other end. Some are very positive stories, and some of them are pretty, heart-wrenching stories. Not every outcome turns out good, on this side of on this side of heaven,
Right.
But they're just stories of ordinary people like you going through a health crisis and learning to see their opportunities through a different set of lenses. Um, Changing their focus. That's what these stories are intended to do. So often, when we're going through a difficult time, we just, we get so introspective about things. We ask those questions, why me? Why now? Why isn't somebody else dealing with this? We feel like the only person on the planet that's dealing with something. And, what's interesting is like when you were talking about your group, how important that is. But we have all these introspective things, but then, the book kind of helps us to begin to focus not so much inward, but more upward. Focusing on the facts of just the truths, of everything, and the truths of God's word and what He tells us, and then helps us to begin to focus, outward. When we begin to find someone else to encourage, someone else to bless, or to do something for, even if we're going to the doctor's office, to find someone else to make their day a little better. It's amazing how much better those folks do, So, there's a recent study out that talked about people who do have MS. It's funny, the people that are connected with other people, how much better they tend to do, and I think it's because we need that relationship. We need those people to kind of walk through life with us, and that's what this is about. So there's a lot of people, Ginger, who are just feeling alone. They just feel like they're the only person on the face of the earth that's experiencing this. And so first of all, just to kind of, when people read these stories, hopefully they'll get the impression that, hey, other people are going through some tough times too. Kind of that, in Hebrews it talks about that great cloud of witnesses, that going before us, and sometimes that helps us to know that there are other people that are just having some tough times too.
Yeah,
So
my
that's
mom
kind of
used
the
to
idea.
say
It's
if you,
real stories, and
yeah,
and so how they've responded to their circumstances.
yeah, my mom used to say if you want to help solve your own problems, focus on someone else's. Like whenever if you're having trouble, like with something else in your life, you're focusing on trying to figure out your own problems. She said the best way to get your mind off of it is to focus on someone else's problems and how can you help them. Maybe you can just bring them a meal, or maybe you can just call them and make them laugh or whatever, but be focused on someone else and what they're going through. Because everybody, I think, for me with MS, and I have complex partial seizures, so I don't get the grand mal. I don't have that kind, but whether it's MS related or not, I get these complex partial seizures. But the MS is the most debilitating. But the thing is, one of the first books I read, it was called "But You Look Fine," and that's really my whole life. It's like they see me on a horse in Texas, and they're like, "But see, you're riding horses." I'm like, "Yeah, but do you know how long I rode, and do you know how many people it took me to get up there?" And like normally I could have just slung around and took off, but I can't.
Probably how exhausted you feel after 5 minutes of riding.
Exactly. It's so hard to and it's a little scary because when my legs are not as strong, it makes me nervous about being able to let the horse know I'm in control, because it's there's a give and take when you're riding. And but then but people will see a random picture like that, or they'll see me. I go to a lot of Christian concerts, and I'll take some video and pictures, and they're like, yeah, like I'm just there, just dancing in the aisles or something. And I'm like, do you understand how hard that was? It took me like a week to get over that. Or but yeah, it's very hard. I think that's been me not feeling alone. And because at times you feel kind of crazy, like is like I must be nuts, like this is getting to me. And yet I look at someone else going through cancer, or somewhere they can't walk, like they're in a wheelchair. I'm not in a wheelchair right now, I could be. But at the same time, you have to, I think you have to have people that you can talk to that understand, your perspective. And it's been one of the biggest blessings is being able to talk to them. And we get to the point where my friend Chelsea and I, where we actually joke, we make humor into it, like like I'm like, well, I was going to cook today, but I can't use my left leg, so I think I'm gonna sit this one out just in case I, throw the okra across the room. My, my kids don't like it served off the floor, so sometimes that helps.
But hey, just a couple things with that. I mean, these stories are intended for people to realize when they read them. It's like, wow, I don't have it as bad as they do.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of one of those things that kind of wake us up, and also to laugh at ourselves. Exactly what you're doing, to learn to laugh at ourselves and the funny things. I've told some stories that are kind of, in the book about some experiences that I've had that were kind of embarrassing that, now I can look back at them and laugh at them. But I think that it kind of helps, when we do that, it kind of helps us to change our focus off ourselves, realize that, hey, we're not as big a deal as we thought we were.
And now you're a surgeon. What is your area of expertise? What do you do?
I do everything, in small town, Nacogdoches, nowhere, like you said. I mean, I do, you name it. You come in with a busted pelvis from a car wreck, or you've been stabbed, or you have cancer. I do all kinds of cancer surgeries. I do all kinds, come in bleeding to death. Do the scopes and do all the transfusions and all those kind of things. So I just do a kind of a wide range of things, which is good, because I really get to see a breadth of a breadth of medical problems, and really get to see a lot of different things, as opposed to being a kind of a city surgeon where I do one thing.
Yeah, where it's,
and I like that.
yeah, you have like a variety of types of things to deal with and different challenges. Um, so how did you get from just being a surgeon to like wanting to do this book?
Well, telling you about a little bit about my story. I mean, first of all, I've seen the impact that faith has on people who are going through a tough time. Both in positive and negative ways. And I've seen people just demonstrate just amazing qualities, and faith, and showing God's adequacy. But I had something that happened to me about 3 years ago that really just kind of was a spiritual kick in the pants. My office building burned down.
Oh my!
Yeah, so it was, it was an investment. It was kind of all my practice was in my office. I was doing procedures in my office, and as I watched it go up in flames, it was like my life had ended. And my wife kept reminding me, honey, all is not lost. And, in small town America, as people began to hear my story, I was still on call that weekend having to work, so I'd go in the hospital, and people began to tell me their stories. And a man told me his story about his fire experience. When his house burned down, he had an invalid wife who couldn't get out of bed, and he couldn't get her out of the house.
Oh my gosh!
And that man had to, that man had to watch his house burn down
with his wife
inside. Can you imagine? And as I began to hear what he had to go through, I was like, oh my goodness, man, this is just my office building, and this is nothing compared to what he had to experience, all those years of living with that. And, how did he, carry on, and so as I began to hear these stories, and I realized this is something I hear and I see every day with people, doctor, can you just give me 6 more months so I can see my grandkids, my first grandkid born. When you see those things, you begin to realize, man, there's a lot of power in what, people, tell you, and everybody has an experience to share. But what's funny is as people begin to tell me their stories, I began to be encouraged by them, and I realized, man, there's just something powerful. Somebody can, like you said, or they can pat you on the back and say, God's got this, and he's in control and stuff, but it doesn't seem to move you as much. I mean, we know that, but when we experience it through the life of someone else and hear how they came through on the other side, man, it's just powerful, And so that's kind of the idea of what this book is about. I want people to focus on the facts and focus on the truth, but I also want them to experience, in a sense, what other people have experienced. A connection, if you may.
It's so hard when you go through different medical things. I had to have a hysterectomy pretty early on. Thankfully, I'd already had 3 kids, but they couldn't figure out what was wrong. I was having so much abdominal pain, and basically, like, my uterus and my intestines and something else was like all glued together with adhesions. And to this day, I can't even tell you. I have no idea how many surgeries I've had to remove adhesions that wrap themselves around my intestines and start to squeeze it. And that's also something that I've fought with. But the surgeon that was the OBGYN that did the surgery, it's harder. I'm so used to being, like in the South, I could, you could share your faith with the girl at the Burger King and she wouldn't care at all. But it's like she would be just like, oh, well, bless you, God, have a blessed day. I'm praying for you, But it's different in Michigan. It's different cultures almost. It's like a different country. And so it's almost like you're afraid to say it because you don't know what people are going to say. And before I went under surgery for that, and he told me, that everything had to go. It was because of the way it was mangled. I had to lose one of my ovaries, and and then the uterus, and I was like, he's like, really, I would like to take everything, because I kept having cysts on the one that was on the other side,
Right.
and I said, I'm done having kids. I mean, no matter what happens, I'm done. And I was 30, so I didn't care. So they took everything, and so before I went under surgery, my surgeon came back to say hi to me before, before
Right.
they took me back, and I looked at him and I said, I said, I'm praying about this, and I said, I'm not really comfortable with it, but I know I need to do it. And he said, well, if this helps you at all, he said, um, I don't, he said, I don't answer to, or he said something like, don't put your faith in me. He said, don't put your faith in the nurses and everybody in the room. He said, but put your faith that I answer to a much higher power that will work through the nurses and through me and through everyone standing in that room, because I'm going to pray it that way. And he said, I have to every day put my head on my pillow and say, I let him guide my hands. I let him guide the people around me. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Like, you know,
Wow.
like I
That was
had a
quite a
Christian
testimony that
doctor.
guy shared. You know.
I mean, it's so helpful to be able to hear that, Some
Yeah.
nurses are more free to do it sometimes, I think, but I think doctors are a little more hesitant, probably lawsuit reasons or whatever.
Well, I mean, you got to be careful. Like for example, you don't want to come in and say, well, the risk of this surgery, death, and bleeding to death, and
Yeah.
all these
Although
things can
that's
happen.
all
And oh,
everything
by
we
the way, if you
sign,
were to
yeah.
die tonight, where you would live in eternity. I mean, you kind of got to be, a little bit more um, sometimes subtle about things. But what's interesting, they've done studies, and and one of the studies showed that over 90% of patients really want to have their doctor open up a spiritual conversation with them or pray with them. And so the way I typically handle it, is ask them if I can pray for them, and they can always say no.
Right.
And I can count on my hands the number of times people have said, no.
That
Doesn't mean I pray with every patient. Sometimes, things are busy and, we don't have time to pray. I've learned to pray, but, for my patients, not always, with them, but always praying and asking God for his help and wisdom. But yeah, just asking your doctor, hey, would you mind praying for me? Sometimes those are the most, as a doctor, those are some of the most cherished moments that I remember,
Well, and one of the things that I was reading in information about your book is, people having it kind of changing their mindset of, what they're going through and experiencing these other stories, having just a different mindset on how everything is, going on in their own physical issues. And I'll tell you, one of the Bible verses that really got me was, that God got nothing for people who just suffer for suffering's sake. That if we suffer, that He should get glory from it. That
wow,
to and that so I thought, if I'm going to suffer, then I'm going to use that to encourage other people, and reach out to other people. And when I see someone say they're going through a health issue, that's where I'm going to connect, and I'm going to help them get through whatever they're going through. And that's it really does. I mean, I'm going to have it until I'm like Job. I believe God can heal me, and He might, and He can do it instantaneously. He can do it gradually. He can do it any way He wants, but He might not. He may not ever do it. And I came to that realization that God may have kept me here because that's the only way I can reach the people that I'm going to reach, is if I stay sick.
wow.
And
That's honestly, I believe that is one of the greatest expressions of faith that a person can have. I mean, there's nothing wrong to pray for healing and to believe in healing, and God does heal, and I've seen it. But also, there's another facet to faith where we accept embrace, what we've been given, just like Paul with this thorn in the flesh,
Yep.
It's funny when we have those situations that, can't be fixed. I believe God gives us an extra measure of grace to endure it. First of all, God never wastes our suffering. There's always a purpose to it. There's always something that we can grow out of that, or like it says in Romans 5, that, we rejoice in our sufferings because we know that these things are going to be the results, but sometimes it's for somebody else, like you were talking about, encouraging somebody else. It talks about that in Corinthians, how we are comforted so that we can comfort other people. But it's never wasted. I had a lady come into the office, and this is one of the stories at the end of the book, Alia, and she needed her gallbladder out, and of course there was all these cultural things, and when I began to examine this lady, it was interesting. She had these scars on her belly, and as I looked at them, there was a scar on her belly button and scars up where her gallbladder was, and I was like, this is really odd. She needs her gallbladder out, but she's got scars exactly where I would do the surgery.
Yeah, like laparoscopic scars.
Yeah, like laparoscopic scars. And so as I began to delve into this, they began to tell me in Somali and broken English that, the witch doctor, when they have pain, they take a hot iron and they burn the area where it hurts.
Oh my gosh!
Now that's suffering for no reason. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's suffering and not fixing the problem, and that's definitely not, especially the Christian, kind of perspective of suffering. God always has a purpose for it. And what's interesting about that lady is I noticed that almost, where her scars were, there was a cross. And the fact, that always, we can always find grace in those tough times. There's a scripture in Hebrews, and I'm going to mess it up, but it's talking about how we can boldly approach the throne of grace, and it says that we obtain mercy and then we find grace, and sometimes we find in life what we look for, sometimes grace it's there, God's grace is always there, but we have to look for it, we really have to, and a lot of it depends on our perspective, but just learning thankfulness, just like you were saying about, joking about your, about not being able to cook sometimes, and kind of have, thank really helps us.
I joke sometimes about having my son actually lives at my house because I now have too much house for just me, so he rents basically his own level, and so he's around, which is very helpful. And there'll be times where we're watching TV and he'll say, here, he's like, change it to whatever channel you want. And I'm like, no, it's not a good day. The remote's probably going to land in the fish tank. You need to probably change the channel for me. Yeah.
We can't even find the remote at our house. So, man, you're better off than I am.
Like seriously, when my hands let go, I have always the strongest phone box they make with 2 or 3 covers on the screen because it's flying no matter what, it's going to fly, and so I started mowing the lawn recently, which has been really funny. And my son, he's like, I can mow it, and I said, yeah, but I'm trying to build up my strength. And I said, if I'm going to walk, I said, it's boring for me just to walk. If I'm mowing, I feel like I'm accomplishing something. And so it started out really rough, and just looking at like the lines that I was making, and we don't have one of those self-propelled kind of things, so you have to really push it. And it was just funny going through that. And my son kept saying, I can help you. I'll just let me do it. And I said, no. I said, I if I have to stop, I will tell you I have to stop. But normally, if I have something to balance on like that, like holding the lawnmower, that's That's
It
usually
helps.
pretty good, yeah. And I said, if you'll forgive like the lines that I might make, I said it might look like a jigsaw puzzle, or you might make a design in the lawn that looks weird from upstairs if you're looking down. But he don't care as long if I do the lawn, he doesn't care. But when
Let me
I
tell you a funny story about that. So, I've got 5 kids. I got 2 older boys. What's funny is the older boys, I got one of those old fashioned metal,
oh
hand
no,
push
the kind
mowers.
that just rolls.
Yeah, and so they got all upset at me when I bought Charlie this riding lawnmower. But anyway, so Charlie gets on the riding lawnmower, and it's more of kind of just like going to the Indy 500. But
Oh
anyway, he's
yeah.
out mowing, and and when he mows, he's like skipping these big old gaps in the yard and stuff. And what's funny though, and kind of the spiritual thing that I learned in that is that when Charlie, I could either beat on Charlie about missing the gaps and not mowing in a square, and just kind of he's doing figures of eights and all kinds of stuff. What I realize is that God often does that with us. He makes up for our inadequacies. He gets back on the on the mower and kind of fills in those gaps. And I really think that's what grace does for us, Ginger, in whatever, circumstances we're facing, whether it's your physical challenge like MS or, you know, parenting or whatever. I really believe that grace is there if we look for it.
And that's important. I mean, I think that's a lot of what your book is about. It's about looking for it, because it's easy for me to look at what's not working today, what hurts today. I mean,
Wow.
I can easily focus on any of that, and some days I do. I do have my days where I just I just let it happen. I just let myself remember this is how it is. Some days I just can't. My cheerleader is gone. Like and that's okay. I think there's some days it's good for me to be solemn like that, and you know just remember how hard it is, so that because I can't make light of it all the time, because then I feel like I'm not going to have the compassion I need when I'm talking to somebody else. But it's been such a blessing to hear other people's stories, and the support groups online are good. But I love what you're doing. I think you need to take it to the next level. I think you need to start speaking now. Except for you're probably a really good surgeon, so we can't take Nacogdoches surgeon away from him. So
Well, I'm trying to quit my day job. I just don't know how. I've got too many mouths to feed, But yeah, I'd love to do some more speaking and stuff, and tell people these stories. So life has seasons, though. We've got to be, as you know, I mean, raising kids is really important. And so, but grace is just God doing for us what we can't do for ourselves. And kind of one of the things I'm learning in my life is just making room for God. I mean, so often, I'm a surgeon, I'm a control freak, and it seems like I've had my whole life planned out. This is where I'm going to be in 10 years and 20 years, and and then you have those down to 5 years and 2 years, and this is what I need to be doing the next 3 months. And I'm kind of at that point in my life where I don't have any agendas anymore. I'm just kind of learning just to give room for God and let Him do what He wants to do.
and if you ask God to give you opportunities to be there for somebody, it will show up every time. I think to be open to that, and just I do that often. And with my son, he can come home from a day at work and he'll start complaining, and I'm like, oh well, that's really bad. And I said, but I had to use my walker to cook your tacos today, but that's okay. And I mean, so I will change his mood like immediately. And he's like, yeah, I'll just quit complaining right now. But, I think a lot of it, and he's experienced a lot of my illness with me. So he'd make a good husband and father if I could get him married off. But now he's 25, so he's
How's that working for you, Ginger?
it's not working for
we need
me.
to have another discussion about raising kids.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm actually in the middle of writing a book myself, and right. I was in a long term, very physically abusive marriage, and what that did to my MS, I cannot even tell you.
Wow.
My neurologist told me, he said, if you stay with him, you're going to be in a wheelchair within the next 10 years, and you're going to stay there. And he was right. I was getting to the point where I literally just did the minimum I could do to either fix something for the kids to eat or whatever, and then I had
Mm.
to sit down. I had zero strength. I was constantly losing motor function, and it was even my mind. It was my cognitive function was just completely horrible, and I just the whole and I didn't leave because of those reasons. I left because God told me to get out. And once I did, it was like watching the healing happen emotionally, spiritually, and medically at the same time. And at one point, I was like, I might even kick this thing. And then I was like, no, it's not. It's not kicked. There we go. Now another Solumedrol treatment. We're not kicked it, but
Wow.
then I was like, it's okay if I don't kick it because everything that I've learned, like I said, that's why I'm writing the book is because I didn't just go through all that for nothing. There's so many women. I tell you what, Dr. Page, I can look at a woman at 10 paces and tell you if she's being abused. I can,
Really?
I can see it in their eyes. I can see it in the way they walk. And I've been
Wow.
right a million times, and just because they're a spirit bearing witness. I don't know what it is, but I can spot it. And there's so many women that I've
Got
helped
it.
encourage out of that.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. I think I guess that's the difference between just like a physician. We can read about something, but when you experience something, it takes it to a whole different level.
It does, and I think for you'd have stories of real people sharing what they really went through. Then people can say either I don't have it as bad as that person, or maybe they do have it as bad as that person, but they can say, "But look what this person went through," and they found God's blessings through it. They found His grace or His mercy through it, or whatever the situation may be. And I think I was so excited to see that this was one of the things coming my way because I was like, because even the press girl, like I've known her for years, and she
Hmm.
said I did not know you had MS, and I said, well, I honestly don't broadcast it. I
Right.
mean, I do say something every once in a while on my radio show because I'll make a funny like throwing the remote in the fish tank or like I do have a lot of funny stories of things that I've done and I make light of it and I always think well maybe somebody's listening that is going through something and they're like oh my gosh there's my people but even the girl that set up the interview she had no idea that I had it and I said this is exactly the kind of person I need to interview and I need to read this book. This is right up my alley and I hope you don't have to quit your day job soon because I know people gotta have a great surgeon that's a face surgeon but I also think what you're doing is incredible and I hope God opens a lot of doors for you in this field because I can't wait to read the book so I'm gonna get you so is it available on digital and all those great things.
Oh yeah, it's available in bookstores and Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million online and all those places. So Barnes, yeah, Amazon, of course. So yeah, it's pretty much available where books are sold. So
And anybody who wants to learn more, they can go to your website, which is charleswpage.com
yeah, or
uh,
spoonfulofcourage.com.
or
So
spoonfulofcourage.com.
and if you have somebody, Ginger, that's kind of going through a tough time, you can go on the website and you can download a little a little slice of the book, and you can give it to them as a gift, as a free gift.
Oh, that's amazing.
So I mean, there's just or if I kind of also was
Gift
doing
the whole
that for
book.
churches and chaplains and stuff. I mean, there's a lot of hospital ministries, and they need resources to give to people. So it's just something that people can download for free. Another
Hey,
thing we got on our
next level is taking the book. Like I can see me getting the book and going and reading it to people in the hospital, like
Yeah.
that are like recovering or about to go through surgery, things like that. Um, telling them stories out, reading stories out of the book, and encouraging them. I think that's one of, I mean, the best book in the world was written with a lot of storytelling and a God witnessed to people through parables, and I
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus. Yeah.
he
Jesus.
was a
That's the way Jesus
storyteller.
did it. You know.
And I think because it's a non-threatening way to teach somebody about your faith. You can pose a situation, you can just talk about a situation, and then bring the faith in at the end and say, and here's the end result. You know this is how we got through this, or this is how this works in my faith. And then just enough for them to want to know more. Just
Yeah.
plant a seed, or maybe reap one. But I think that would be great to have people, read them at bedsides. For anybody who is, you know, volunteering in a hospital or something, just asking people if they'd like to hear an encouraging story of somebody who's going through something similar to them.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of what it's designed to do. I mean, there's short stories that people can read that they're not like it's funny how our society, we're so focused on information, and I didn't want to have a book that was like a theological treatise on suffering. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? I mean, we need, most of us know what we need to do. We just need to be in. So I wanted to do something not, you know, and so it seems to be connecting with people. But no, hey, Ginger, let me just encourage you. You've got a great story. I mean, and I want to encourage you to finish that book. You know, it may take you a while to do that, but you have a message that people need to hear. And dealing with a chronic disease, man, dude, that's tough.
And it's one, and some people ask me, well, I don't understand, like, so what does that mean? And I said, and I'll tell people, well, it means it's probably not going to kill me, but it's just going to irritate me for probably the rest of my life. I mean, like, and I think people are kind of dumbfounded when they realize, like, so it just never lets up. I'm like, well, I have better days than worse days, or, like, but yeah, like, it's been 20 years this year since my MS, well, since it came out.
Ginger, that's why I tell people I'm the best guy to see on the worst day of your life. I mean, you never really want to see me, because if you're gonna have to see me, something probably bad is happening. But sometimes you need me. I tell you what's funny. My wife, I have the greatest wife. I tell people she's the best person to see any day of your life.
Aww.
So yeah, she's a real sweetheart.
Well, I think you have a unique position because people are so at your mercy when you see them. They're looking at you so much for hope of any kind, and even if it's just a simple gallbladder surgery, which sometimes those aren't simple, but
That's right.
Even if it's something that is a so-called routine surgery, people get scared, especially if they've never had it before, any kind of surgery. And my son had his gallbladder out 2 years ago. I mean, I thought he was super young, but he had stones that were moving, and he was in constant pain. And so they were like, it's one surgery, in and out. He'll be running the next week at work just like he always does. And it made a big difference in his life. But it was like him going under. He was like, really scared. And I was like, are you kidding? I can do a gallbladder surgery and like walk out of the hospital like 2 minutes later. I could still have the anesthetic going.
To give their kids, mom and dad supposed to give our kids a good kick in the pants.
Yeah. And he's like, I forgot all your surgeries. And
An attitude adjustment, yeah.
Yeah, I call it my weed pulling surgery and have my adhesion surgeries. I mean, I'm so glad that you wrote this. I cannot wait to read it and share it with it. And I am definitely getting a copy for my friends in my little circle. so that they can read it. And because I think we need so many times to hear stories like this to remind us of the blessings that can come out of every situation, including chronic illness or even temporary illness, whatever it is. That God can not only pull us through it, but He can get glory from it. He can make something great come out of it. And well, I'm looking forward to, so now you gotta go on volume 2. Like, what next book? You gotta start
Well,
thinking.
I'll tell you what, it's interesting. So there's a lot of people that suffer during a sickness, and one group is the people who are the sick and suffering, but there's another group is the caregivers, the people that
Yes.
are around. You know what I'm saying? That their whole life changes and their identity kind of becomes the caregiver.
Yep.
And so I think we're going to kind of work out another book for them.
Do you know that it's one of the highest suicide rates is people who are caregivers that are working like home health?
Really?
Yeah, I read that because I used to work in home health, and it was so emotionally taxing. This was before I had the MS come out, but like that was something that they told me. They said it's not easy. It's one of the most depressing jobs you can do, but if you do it right, it's one of the most rewarding too. And nurses are the like heroes of the world. Nurses and home health care people, it
Yep.
is those people, because they are always the hands-on, the ones that are there when you're recovering and when you're going through rehab, whatever it is, and they
Absolutely.
help you deal with that. Physical therapists, they're amazing, and I think that would be a really great thing to focus on. You got a unique position as a surgeon to be able to get some really incredible stories that way.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, man. I experience these stories and these people every day. You know, everybody has a story, and there's always a lesson that we can learn from people.
Well, and I'm so thankful for you. I have to get going, but I just want to thank you. I'm going to share this interview with your social media, and so you can share it with anybody who needs to hear it. And just thank you so much. I'm going to share your book, and I can't wait to let you. I'll let you know what I think after I read it. I'm excited to read it, and I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna get it from my little group of merry band. We call our island, or our island of misfit toys. We all have different things. One has lupus, one has rheumatoid arthritis, and something else. Like, we all have like a different grab bag of things, but they're all chronic, and
Yep.
and they're daily things we have to deal with. So um a lot of us talk daily on, like, just messaging back and forth. Just sometimes it's just pray for my arm today. Just pray for my hand, it's not working. And we just we have our days where we cry together, and then we have days where we laugh together because something happened, or and we just try to find laughter and good tears, as much as we can. And um, it's hard. It really is. I'm so glad to talk to you, and I pray blessings on you for blessing people with this book. I hope all those blessings just get turned right back around at you as you help people. And thank you for being a godly surgeon that lets God work through you to heal people, and to be there for them and be a comfort for them. It is no small thing. As a person who's been on the other end of the knife way too many times, you have no idea, until you're an actual patient yourself, what an amazing thing it is to have a surgeon that's what's leading their hands.
Well, thank you. I needed to hear that today.
Well, yeah, and I'll just let me know if you ever need to hear some more. I got a lot of those. I'm
We all need an attaboy every once in a while, don't we?
Well, yeah, we have to have some encouragement, especially just like caregivers. You too have discouraging days where you know you have a difficult surgery, or surgeries get behind, or you start getting rushed. And I know I've watched the emergency rooms, I mean, or the surgery rooms, like, and they get behind. Everybody seems to be like on high alert, and seems like they're twice as nervous. And so I know everybody has those moments and days. And just keep it up, and attaboy.
Man, thank you so much, Ginger. You do the same.